You ever make a wrong turn at Campfire West Reservoir on Old Highway 65 and think, why am I suddenly in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by more nowhere, wrapped in a bonus layer of nowhere? Well, buckle up, neighbors, because this little corner of Lincoln's backcountry didn't just come weird by accident. Oh, no. This place has earned its strange reputation. It's not a ghost story. It's not even trying to be mysterious. It's the wonderfully quirky frontier chaos that happened when California was brand new and nobody knew what the hell they were doing. This is the story of a military camp at the same commitment level of using a gym membership, a ranch that was hungry for fame entirely by accident, a tiny town that slowly dissolved like an antacid tablet, a cemetery that had been playing hide and seek for 175 years and counting, and this one man, Abner Washburn, who lived through all of it and has absolutely no clue what he was doing, along the whole way. So we're telling the story of the Campfire West Reservoir, the forgotten settlement that didn't really die, it just lost interest and drifted away. So settle in. This is easily one of the strangest frontier tales about a bunch of very unhappy campers you might ever hear. Before we get into the wacky part, let's set the stage. If you drop a pin in that no man's land between Sheridan, Wheatland, and the Bear River, you're standing in the frontier equivalent of dropping your phone in the toilet. Zero planning, zero foresight. It was never meant to be a town. The official plan for this stretch of land was, and I quote, open space with cows. Nothing here went according to the original plan. Honestly, I don't even think there was a plan to begin with. This spot became the first non-native settlement in the entire region, the unexpected finish line for the Donner Party survivors, a military outpost, a tiny civilian town, a cemetery, and eventually a lake that covered up the whole mess as fast as a local politician. Which brings us to Abner, don't blame me, I just live here, Washburn, a real frontier personality who represents the exact kind of settler who unintentionally made places like this happen. If you've never heard of Abner Washburn, don't worry, most historians haven't either, and the ones who have politely pretend they didn't. Abner wasn't famous, wealthy, important, or particularly good at anything except for being present when strange things happen. And honestly, that's what makes him perfect for the story. Abner Washburn was the kind of man the frontier seemed to attract on purpose. He wasn't chasing gold, glory, or adventure. He was mostly chasing shade, snacks, and hope he'd eventually figure out what he's supposed to be doing out here. Born somewhere back east, he was very vague on the details, and records aren't much help. Abner drifted west at the dizzying pace of someone who, stopped to investigate every rock and interesting thing along the way. He never quite arrived where he meant to go, the gold fields, right? He missed him by about 50 miles and decided, close enough, before building a cabin that leaned in 3 different directions depending on the wind. So important decisions were not Abner's specialty, but enthusiasm absolutely was. He'd hammer a board crooked, look at it and proudly declare, well, hey, it stayed put, didn't it? What Abner lacked in carpentry skills, life planning, intelligence, navigational accuracy, he made for up with friendliness. If you wandered past his shack, he'd offer you water or advice no one asked for in a story that may or may not have been true. He had that rare talent of being instantly likable and mildly concerning all at the same time. And here's the thing about Abner Washburn. Whether by luck, fate, or the universe needed some comedic relief, he happened to be standing right in the middle of nearly every odd event that shaped Campfire West and Johnson Ranch area. He didn't create history, he just ended up there and had front row seats to everything. And bless his heart, man, he remembered everything-ish. Even when he or we didn't want him to. Abner once bragged about how he's born lucky, which is true if you've been considered, never being eaten by a bear despite giving them so many chances, a type of luck. This is the moment that the frontier began building a town around a man who didn't even intend to be there. Picture it. It's the late 1840s. You've got this guy, William Johnson, who builds himself a simple ranch in the frontier, and he was the actual landowner. Hardworking, capable, and constantly bewildered by his neighbors appearing out of nowhere and just planting themselves on his land. And then, through absolutely no fault of his own, his ranch becomes the busiest rest stop in Northern California. Not by design, not by advertisement, simply because he was literally the first thing people saw after walking out of the mountains in a state of emotional ruin. Every wagon train heading towards the gold fields seemed to end up on his doorstep. Hungry, exhausting, dragging broken, wagon wheels, sore oxen, and approximately 4,000 complaints about their journey. In Johnson's ranch hand, Abner just said, "Yeah, sure, come on in, we'll find room." Of course, the most famous visitors were the Donner Party survivors who arrived in 1847, cold, starving, absolutely done with enjoying the taste of the life that the Sierra had to offer. They came stumbling out of the mountains looking like they had been shaken by a giant frozen toddler who wanted to see what noise they made. Historically meaningful? Absolutely. But imagine being William Johnson that morning. You're sipping on your coffee and suddenly people appear out of the fog like characters from a survival reality show, starving in that good old Donner Party sort of way. So Abner recalled it this way. I saw folks coming over the ridge looking cold as toast. I yelled, "Y'all right?" And one yelled back, "We'd like to be." Johnson immediately took charge. Abner immediately panicked, and the cows immediately judged everybody. Before long, Johnson's Ranch became the unofficial welcome center of the West. Not by design, not by advertisement, simply because it was literally the first thing people saw after walking off the mountain in a state of emotional ruin. It was a super fun place to be, I'm sure. So jump forward to 1849, the United States Army arrives and declares, "This looks like a mighty fine place to put a fort." And to be fair, it kind of was. They picked a nice bluff over the Bear River, built barracks, set up corrals, dug wells, and made themselves right at home on Johnson's land. Abner considered himself the unofficial civilian liaison, which mostly meant he wandered around the camp asking if anybody had coffee. The extra soldiers were friendly and hardworking and extremely good at building things. One guy was even assigned to the task to ask, "Where's Jenkins?" every 4 hours. But, Camp Far West, as far as, was basically the military equivalent of someone who sets up an elaborate tent in a campground, roasts one marshmallow, and then drives home because they forgot their pillow. It officially lasted only a few years. Unofficially, historians think it vanished from memory even faster. By the 1860s, locals were like, "Camp? What camp? There's no happy campers around these parts." Abner said one day it was just a fort, and the next day it was a bunch of empty buildings. Third day, teenagers stole the boards to build rafts. Frontier recycling at its finest, he said. Now, this is my favorite part because, it's just downright strange. Because after the ranch and the fort, the settlers decided, well, shoot, there's two buildings here. Sounds like a town to me. Presto, in comes our very own shantytown. A few maps from the 1850s and 1860s show a trading post, a blacksmith, a saloon, a ranch house, maybe something like a hotel or a barn someone called a hotel. Frontier architecture was really a mystery. So, but here's the part, the town didn't die in some dramatic way. It didn't burn down. It wasn't wiped out by bandits or drought. Abner said it was the kind of town where the chickens had more authority than the mayor. Mostly because we didn't have a mayor. Maps couldn't agree on the name. Travelers couldn't agree on a location. Residents couldn't agree on the shape of their buildings. The settlement existed, no question, but it had the structure of a group project where everyone showed up with a different idea, and the teacher had stayed up late drinking the night before. And over a decade or two, it just slowly drifted away, like a fart in a small closed room. Floods moved things, families relocated, buildings were dismantled and reused. One supposedly ended up in Wheatland as part of a barn. The town didn't collapse, no drama, no tragedy. It just politely wandered off because the room still stunk. Buildings were moved, some were dismantled for lumber, a few floated away in big old Bear River floods. A couple may have been turned into barns, one was very likely turned into a chicken coop. We just don't know. Sadly, nobody could quite remember except for Abner where it was, what it looked like, or what it was called. One historian literally wrote that nobody cared. Its exact location is uncertain due to indifference. That is a top-tier historical insult, if you ask me, man. It's like slapping Camp Far West mama. Now we get to the cemetery, right? It's completely real, documented, historic, and absolutely terrible at staying put. The Bear River doesn't care where you think it should be. It moves where it wants, and in the 1800s, it moved a lot. Floods reshaped the land. Early surveyors disagreed about nearly everything. Cows wandered, around and started its own little, mooing civilization. Some headstones broke, some sank, some were moved. Some said, you know what, I'm tired. Let's just leave them in Illinois so nobody knows. Then the reservoir arrived in the 1960s and said, no worries, everyone. I'll take it from here. A few graves were relocated, a few were mapped, a few were, somewhere. The result, a real historic cemetery that is documented in records, but extremely shy in person and not very thirsty anymore. Surveyors came through and, in different decades, and it could never agree on the exact footprint. Abner said, I tried to map it, but every time we blinked, the river, redid the landscaping. It turned out great. By the time Camp Far West Reservoir was built, the whole area looked like the frontier equivalent of a teenage bedroom. Buildings in random places, old road beds looping like spaghetti, a military camp that left its stuff behind, a lost town in pieces, a cemetery doing whatever the heck it wanted. If you see it, I hope you're thirsty. Lake covers the whole thing in 14 square miles of water. The lake arrived like, the responsible adult in the room, right? It covered the landscape, smoothed the edges, and created a recreational paradise for people who prefer fishing over trying, to decode 1850s geography. Abner didn't live to see the reservoir, but he, predicted it perfectly. He once said, someday someone's going to put a lake here just to make sense of it all. He wasn't wrong, though, right? Unlike a lot of other frontier stories, this one isn't heavy. It's not tragic. It's not violent. It's something better. It's charming. It's quirky. It's uniquely Lincoln. It's a story about a history that refuses to behave, a ranch that became famous without even trying, a military camp that changed its mind, a tiny town that wandered off and forgot telling you it was moving, a cemetery that's still on its own schedule, and a regular guy, Abner, living through everything with a shrug and a smile. Is frontier life at its most human, messy, funny, unpredictable, and full of strange stories. So, what's true? Johnson's Ranch was the first non-native settlement in the region. Donner Party survivors did arrive here in 1847. Camp Far West was a real U.S. Army outpost in 1849 to 1852. A small civilian settlement grew near the ranch and camp. Its buildings really did disperse over time. The cemetery truly existed, and some burials were relocated during the reservoir's construction. Floods, land changes, and time erased most surface traces. The Bear River shifted constantly, complicating later surveys. Everything is buried deep under a lake today. So what parts are fuzzy? The exact boundaries of the town, the precise location of the original cemetery, how many buildings existed and what they were used for, how far the ranch buildings extended, where the camp's Far West's full footprint was before erosion. So what's fun to imagine, right? The town slowly being dismantled into barns, the army realizing that they forgot their tools a year after leaving, and Johnson waking up every morning wondering what that surprise guest would be showing up that day, a cemetery politely refusing to cooperate with cartographers, how long farts will ring in her room, Abner's specific quotes, the extent of his involvement in the settlement, which buildings teenagers borrowed, whether the chickens truly outranked the mayor, although it's likely true. All silly, all playful interpretations that are rooted in real, messy frontier history. But ultimately, it's my strange, silly imagination at work. But the underlying history is absolutely real. So next time you're out by Camp Far West, on Old Highway 65, turn right and you'll see nothing but lake, hills, and a whole lot of quiet. Just know you're looking at one of the busiest, strangest, happiest accidents in early California history. It's a place where history wandered in, wandered out, and every once in a while they left behind something unforgettable. And if that doesn't make you smile, well, you might just be in for the wrong part of town. Just keep swimming, as Rory would say. Before we wrap up, I want to give you a huge shout out to the Lincoln Area Archives Museum. These incredible folks keep our town's history alive. Every map, every newspaper clipping, every folder packed with stories just like this one. If you've never been in, you're missing out. So thanks for watching another Strange Stories of Lincoln. Keep your eye out for the next episode. If you like this one, share it on YouTube with someone who cares about our town or simply likes storytelling. As always, I'm Mike Crossfield, a local business owner trying to build a better Lincoln together.